Now let's talk about the special types of angles you can have. An acute angle is going to be an angle with a measure between 0 degrees and 90 degrees. So it's anything from being completely closed to a right angle. Anything in between. A right angle has an angle with a measure exactly 90 degrees. And you will notice that when we have a right angle in a picture, the way we symbolize a right angle is with this box at the vertex. And that tells us that we have a right angle which has a measure of 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is an angle with a measure between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So the way to remember this is acute is an acute little angle. It's small, it's less than 90 degrees. Obtuse is a fat angle. It's big, it's larger than 90 degrees. And then lastly you have a straight angle, which is an angle with a measure of exactly 180 degrees. Because when we have an angle with 180 degrees, what we notice is if we start at 0 and we go and go and go and go until we hit 180, that creates a straight line. And that's why this is called a straight angle. These are the 4 special types of angles we'll have. A question I want you to think about for a moment is why don't we have a special angle name for an angle that has a measure greater than 180 degrees? While you're thinking about this, it might help to try and draw one out. So try to draw an angle that's 270 degrees and see what that looks like. Okay, for those of you who are curious about this answer, if I did draw an angle of 270, so this angle is going to go 90 would be straight up, 180 would be a straight line, and then 270, okay. So when I draw this angle, I see that this part is 270. However, this part here is 90 degrees. So this is actually a right angle. The thing is, these angles, depending on which half you're looking at, can have 2 measures. In geometry, if we're just given an angle, we always assume we're dealing with the smaller measure here. There are going to be times later in this course when we are specifically dealing with the larger measure, but we'll talk about that later. This is why anytime we get past 180, we then actually start decreasing the angle size. Example 3. Using the classifications you just learned of acute, right, obtuse, and straight, I want you to classify the following angles. You are told that the measure, and notice we are using the m because we're talking about numbers here. So the measure of angle KHJ is 55 degrees. The measure of angle GHK is 125 degrees. The measure of angle GHJ is 180 degrees. And the measure of angle GHL is 90 degrees. Try this on your own first, pause the video, and resume when you're ready to check your solution. Okay, for part A, since 55 is less than 90, this is an acute angle. For part B, 125 is greater than 90 but less than 180, so this is an obtuse angle. For part C, our angle is exactly 180, that creates a straight angle. And lastly, for part D, we have 90 degrees, which is a right angle. If you had any questions on those, go back and review the definitions of acute, obtuse, straight, and right, and make sure you understand why these are labeled as such.